My name is Sherles Jr. Okay. I retired from the Y-12 plant in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, nuclear plant. Down there, I went to school at Morristown College. I went down there and put in an application to for employment. Didn't know what I was going for, what job. But when I got down there, they were very interested in where I went to school. He said I did very well on the test, and he said, you're available to pick the job that you want, which I did. I picked it. I picked to be an electrician, and I went to apprentice school and finished top of my class down there from Morristown College. And it was because of Morristown College that I feel like that gave me the proper credentials to do as I did out of 16 people. And of course, I was the only black guy in the course. You know, some of them got jealous of me, but that's all right. I let them know that hey, I did my part. And so I went on to be an electrician, a journeyman electrician, and I got the first promotion out of my class. They got a little jealous of that. I got a few calls about that, but I kept moving. Went right on and became a frontline supervisor for 20 years. My parents were Sherles Sr. and Ethel Sherles from Russellville, Tennessee. That's where I was born and raised. My dad was a railroad worker. My mom was just a housekeeper. Of course, she raised 6 kids. And so Russellville was Russellville, I grew up during the days of segregation. But Russellville, we all worked together. And segregation was a secondary thing. We all, both black, white, we lived together, worked together, we did everything together. If somebody came by and you were doing something and they asked you what you were doing, they would just join in and help you. And that's the way that community was. And that's the way I was raised. And after I got outside, I had a hard time understanding why people were different, because I thought the whole world lived that way. I found out it wasn't. So I had to learn and change my ways and learn to deal with other things, you know, like segregation. But it was okay, yeah. It was 7 of us, 6 boys, 1 girl. She was the oldest. And when Mom was gone, my sister was our parent. She was more strict than my mom, which we didn't like. But it was okay too, because she could run faster. She was stronger. And so we had to mind her one way or the other, you know. That was a good memory. And she was a good sister until her death, you know. One of my best memories, I guess, is growing up in a singing group, gospel singing group. And that's what I did on the side most of my life. I learned to play the guitar. We sung in churches from Florida to New York, up and down the coast, the eastern coast, for years. Most of my life, from the time I was 15 years old until I lost 3 brothers, and so that caused us to have to break up the group because of lack of singers. But that's most of my memories, is enjoying going to church and enjoying being in church. I still do. Early days growing up in Russellville was the community that we did everything together. Where I lived was almost an acre of land with a large yard. And so it also became the community park, being a country town. You know, we didn't have a park. But people in the community came to our house almost daily to play games. We play badminton, we play horseshoes, small games. We'd maybe sit around and sing, tell jokes. My dad, he could make up jokes right out the top of his head. He'd tell ghost stories. And so at nighttime, when we'd be walking around, those stories would be in our head. You know, we'd be scared. Sometimes we'd run past the cemeteries or some place that he told that about something that had happened. And he told many stories. I mean, he could just tell them right off the top of his head. And, you know, we all would sit around and just listen to him tell those stories almost on a daily basis. I don't know how he could think of all this stuff, but he could think of more things that the situations, you know, like at nighttime, a ball of fire come down and get in front of you and wouldn't let you go past, you know. Just little simple stuff like that. And of course, being kids, we'd believe that stuff. And at nighttime, like, again, when we'd be walking around, I mean, we'd be scared, you know, to pass certain places that he had told about those stories because we would remember those things. And then again, you know, playing games with each other, both black and white. And prejudice was not allowed. You know, it would be taken care of either by we, the children, or the parent, you know, in a good way. This didn't allow it. And if you came to our house on our property and somebody did or said something the other way, they'd have to leave until you got straightened out before they'd be allowed to come back. And this is the way I grew up. The day I retired, I hated to leave my friends, but I was so happy about retirement. I left Oak Ridge coming back to Morristown, which is where I ended up living. I almost got picked up by the police, highway patrol. I was coming back and enjoying what I'm going to do for retirement. Forgot about the speed. I was coming up Interstate 40, and I looked up, the highway patrol was behind me, and I thought, oh my God. And I thought, he didn't have his lights on, but I saw him coming up, and I said, I bet he's coming after me. So I got behind a truck, a big truck, and I thought, I knew where the exit was going. I thought, I'm gonna go around this truck, and then I'm gonna take that exit. And that's what I did. And the highway patrolman kept going, and I said, ha, ha, ha. I got back on the interstate. I was glad he didn't pick me up. I enjoyed my work. I enjoyed, first of all, learning my electrical work and being able to do electrical work. I enjoy working with my hands. I enjoyed when I was a craftsman. I also enjoyed being a supervisor because I grew up, was taught to treat people the way I wanted to be treated. And that's the way I supervised. And the crew that I ended up supervising, they'll tell you today that we had probably the best crew in the facility. And we still keep in touch with each other today. You know, we're still friends. Matter of fact, one of the guys that I supervised, he became a supervisor. And he told me, he said, Morris, I tried to supervise like you, but it didn't work. But I told him, I said, then you probably didn't have the crew that I had, because we all bonded. Yeah. Any historical figure? That's a good question. Because there's plenty of them out there that I patternized after. And most of them are in the gospel field. Okay, when we were singing, we were able to open up with many of the professional singers, like Gospel Keynotes, the Mighty Clouds of Joy, on stage, being able to meet them, talk to them, and still be friends. As a matter of fact, we are to this day. Still friends with some of those if we see them. Favorite color? Probably red, because it's hot. My favorite football, professional, has always been of course I'm a Titans fan now, but the Los Angeles Rams. I grew up with them being my favorite team. I think about Morristown as a good place to live. I've visited a lot of cities, but Morristown has always been my favorite.
What's your favorite thing? What's your favorite thing about Morristown, and your least favorite thing about Morristown?
My favorite thing about Morristown is the friendliness of the people. The least thing is I just wish it'd be open a little bit more to people of color. I think because of organizations like Task Force, Men of Vision, Reunion of the Ages, that we're bonding more, learning more about each other, and learning more about how to help each other to make this city a better place to live. Morristown is growing rapidly, and I think it's going to be one of the larger, smaller cities. It's a combination, because people are moving in here vastly and causing this town to grow. Now, I hope it grows with the union that we would like for it to be. Some historical things that people might not know about Morristown. I give it a lot of thought, because we have historians here in Morristown. Jim Claiborne, Bill Isom, who are projecting historical things about Hamilton County, Morristown, Russellville, that we need to know about, that have been brought out, that I think will be good for historians and non-historians. Because I'm learning about some things myself, just by reading the things that they're putting out. Again, I know, again, about Russellville, because that's where I grew up. I enjoyed Russellville because of the way people worked together and got along without so much prejudice going on. And that's why I still like this part of the country, because it meant so much to me and to my family. My dad was a great baseball player. He was a great pitcher. He could throw a curve around the corner. And I didn't get to see him play until I got older, and he was older. But in his prime, I was told some stories about my dad. They said he could swell just about everybody's hand when they would catch him. He could throw a ball so hard. Of course, he's a railroad worker. He had big old muscles, you know, and he could throw a ball so hard he would never throw it to us. I was 15 years old before he would throw a ball at me. He said, "I'm afraid I'll hurt you." Finally, I got him to throw a ball at me. 15 years old. I thought I was near grown, you know, big enough. So I take him up in the back part of the property. He said, "All right, bring the glove on up here. I'm gonna throw you a ball." So I squat down like a catcher. So he throws me a ball. I said, throw me your slider, you know, which I didn't know what a slider was. He threw me that slider. And it goes, "Kapow!" I thought, oh my God. I said, "Now throw me your knuckleball." He threw me a knuckleball. Now I don't know if you know anything about a knuckleball. A knuckleball is hard to throw because you have to get it between he showed me how to do it. You get it between the fingers like that, and you throw it and you flip it. Now I tried doing that, and if I could throw it from here to that wall, I was doing good. He threw that ball at me and popped my glove. I thought, oh my God, if he can do a knuckleball there, what's the curve gonna be like? I said, all right, I've heard about your curveball. Throw me a curveball. Kapow! I said, throw it hard. He said, no, you don't want to. He said, I'll hurt you for sure if I throw it hard. He said, I threw it easy because I knew you couldn't catch it. Now, my next oldest brother next to me was telling me about some stories about Dad. One of them, he said, you know, only one person could catch Dad when he was pitching. That was his brother because he grew up with him. Excuse me. He said several people tried to catch him. Matter of fact, one guy went by the store and bought a steak to put in his glove to keep from swelling his hand. And Dad swelled it up anyway. So, you know, it's just things like that I've enjoyed. I wish I could have seen him in his prime, but I just wasn't old enough. You know, he got out of his prime. But I did get to play with him as he got older. Dad played with us until he was about 50 years old, about 45 or somewhere along in there. We would choose up and play what we call sandlot ball. You know, we would go maybe to Newport, Greenville or somewhere, or from Russellville to Morristown, and play another team that had chosen up just for recreation, you know. And Dad would pitch for us. And, but now if he got on base, you know, at his age, we would tell the other team we would run the bases for him and allow him to stay in so he could pitch. And all we would ever hear, where did they get that old man?